Hey guys, it's Josh here and welcome back to another speed build video. Once again, I'm sorry about the delay. The university assignments, well, some of them were finished last week, but I still have a few left to go, so I had to keep working on those. So I'm hoping to get a couple more videos out this week, unlike last week because I had no videos up last week because I just had no time. But now I should have time, and there's also a week off university coming up soon, so I'm hoping to get a bunch of things done, like CC, videos, all that kind of stuff. I'm really excited to get all those things done. But anyway, as you can tell right now, this house is looking like a generic modern home. But if you've read the title, there is something that's going to happen to this, and it's going to be ruined, literally. It's going to be turned into an abandoned modern house. I have never done this before. I have never built a abandoned home before. I've built like a kind of trailer park, or like a trailer for Strangerville a few weeks ago that was like abandoned, but it was messy. So I've kind of like took inspiration from my trailer build and put it into this house by adding lots of the really messy pieces of clutter, like the paper on the floor and all the random boxes and crates and all that kind of stuff, and I think it turned out pretty cool. I do understand that this type of house will not be everyone's cup of tea. It's definitely not my cup of tea, but I thought it would be really fun to build. Like, it is fun to build, but I don't think I'd ever live in this house or like get my Sims to live in here. But honestly, depending on the storyline of my Sim, I could potentially make like some kind of Sim who's like starting off really poor and they could live in a really abandoned home like this, but the bills will be quite high, so you better turn those off, because this house, although it's an abandoned home, it's actually still worth like 80,000 simoleons, I believe, so you can probably expect the bills to be a little bit high. But anyway, as you can see right now, I just start off this build by building just a generic modern home before I actually start like tearing it apart. But if I'm being honest with you guys, when I started building this house, I was actually just planning it for it to be a generic modern home, but my last home was basically a generic modern / industrial home, so I thought I'd just try something new and ruin the house, literally, because I've never done that before, as I said, and it was a lot of fun. Like, I think I might actually build another ruined house in the future. My Sims may never end up living in them, but I think it was just a lot of fun in general to just build a modern house, and it's just something that I'd never do normally, so it was just fun to play around with like various objects that I've basically never even used before in The Sims. So that was a really fun idea, and I'm glad I randomly thought of it. But anyway, I think I might just skip ahead to when we actually start doing the furnishings and stuff, because this is just a generic modern home in terms of floor plan. It's not that interesting to see. So yeah, I'll catch up with you guys once we're ready to start the interiors / exterior decorating. We are now just outside still, finalizing some of the cracks that formed on the house. I'm just going to go ahead and say that this house may or may not have been poorly built to begin with, since this is a modern house, so it's a fairly recently built house, yet it's been abandoned for maybe 20 years, and cracks like this have already started to form absolutely everywhere. So I'd like to know who the builder was that built this in The Sims. That, totally not me, but like, who built this in the game? It is definitely poorly built, because there are cracks absolutely everywhere. I'd never want to get a house built by this builder again. And I also put some of the scratches and stuff down as well, and as you can see, there's a pool in the pool on the lot right now that has the really dirty water. I do actually end up changing it, and I actually build a basement and remove the water. I actually did see this happen in someone else's build on Twitter. I believe it was Mr. Olkin. He did build an abandoned house that had a pool in the backyard, and it was like a basement that had the ceiling taken away, and I thought that was an absolutely amazing idea. I decided to implement that instead of using just the dirty water pool, because I feel like this is Oasis Springs. If the pool was no longer being maintained, I think like over time it would just completely drain and evaporate. So that's basically why I decided to take from that idea and put the basement, make a basement without a ceiling as like a kind of empty pool. And also, like, I guess, if you're wondering about the story of this house, basically this area of Oasis Springs used to be like some of the other areas of Oasis Springs that were actually an oasis, and there was like grassy areas and lots of lush green vegetation. but something happened. Maybe like the river in this area dried up, or the water just basically stopped coming down to this area. So the oasis kind of just completely disappeared and it dried up, and basically all the people that living here decided to move away because this place was basically no longer really suitable for like a really nice luxury kind of area, because we kind of need really nice vegetation to have a really nice overall neighborhood. So I guess you could say that this place was kind of like a really wealthy area, but once the oasis dried up and everything just kind of died away, all of those people were just not having it and they were not for it, so they just moved away. And basically, since the houses were fairly big and not big, this house is fairly small, but since the houses were fairly expensive, no one really wanted to move here, since all the rich people would hate the surrounding area now that it's all dried up, and all the lower wealth people cannot even afford this house. So basically this house was just left abandoned and it just kind of like slowly fell into ruin. But now that a heap of time has passed, I guess you could say that some people who don't have a house decided to find a way into this house and basically transform it into like their own kind of like house. So that's why there's a lot of like random furniture and like old furniture, because obviously when the people moved out originally, they just take away all their furniture with them. But this person has brought along all of their little makeshift furniture and random pieces of random objects that they probably found on the streets or something, and brought it to this house. So that's basically that random storyline. I'm not sure if you guys are for it, but I just made that up on the spot when I was building this house. So I thought it was just something fun just to like come up with while I'm building it. But anyway, I don't think I've actually talked about what's in the house, so I think I might do that now. So basically, this is a 1-bedroom home. I probably should have said that at the start, but you could probably assume that by like the size of the house, since it is a fairly small house. But it's a 1-bedroom house with an upstairs lounging area, and downstairs there's a bathroom, a garage, a little dining area, and a small kitchen. So this house is functional. Like, I've tested it. You can cook, you can sleep, you can watch TV. Yes, there is a TV in here. I don't know how they get power, but they do. Maybe like the power company forgot to turn the power off. I don't know how realistic that would be, but that's what happened. There is power here still, and there is a lot of mess. Like, if you couldn't tell or couldn't assume, there is going to be a lot of mess. And I think just at the front door area, I used the same, oh no I didn't. I feel like I just don't know why, but I thought I used the same poster twice in the same area, but I don't think I did, that's fine. And there's also a lot of graffiti as well, because I have never used graffiti, like the graffiti wall decorations in The Sims at all. So I thought it would be really fun to be able to use that, because obviously, even if it wasn't the person who moved into here that painted it, I'm sure that someone would have come here at one point to paint graffiti on the wall, because this is, if you could see, the side of the house was pretty flat and it was just asking to be graffitied, since this is an abandoned house. And this house mostly uses various like lamps and stuff from like outdoor retreat. Like, it uses those camper lamps and some of the lights from cats and dogs. Most of the lights are that. But there are a few actual like built-in lights, but there's not a lot of those, because I'm sure like most of those would have just broken over time. I probably could have just put some in and just turned them off and turned the auto lights for them off, just to like kind of make it a little bit more realistic in that the lights are there, but they just don't work. But I decided to just not do that, I guess, and just keep it empty and just put random lights here and there. Also, although this is a 1-bedroom house, I'm going to pretend and go ahead and say that there's more than 3 people, or there's more than 2 people living in this house, which is why there are 3 beds there. So even though there is 1 bedroom, it kind of makes sense that whoever's living in here can basically do whatever they want and add like more beds here and there and set up more beds, because they can, and there's enough room, even though it's a little bit messy. But this house isn't meant to be tidy, right? And if you could see, with the front doors and back doors and all of that, I decided to actually like basically delete the door and wall and put windows and rotate them and stuff to try and make the effect of like the door being left open, because I just feel like whoever's living here, and since it's an abandoned home, like who even cares? Just leave the door open. It's not like they're gonna steal it. It's not like anyone's gonna steal anything of value or even come here, because I don't even know how many people would actually come to this area of Oasis Springs, because I'm gonna pretend that this is completely out of the way. Like there is no main road going through here. It's kind of like its own little separate area of Oasis Springs that kind of just like died away since it dried up, and it's basically like being forgotten about. Like it's kind of like a ghost neighborhood, if you will. That's basically why potentially no one really cares about like closing the doors and stuff like that, because the chances of someone actually coming here and being brave enough to explore this abandoned house is quite low. But anyway, we are working on the upstairs area now, and I do put a couple of armchairs down, and I really like, I think I just put a simple crate down, and then there's actually a games console. I don't know where on earth the people living here found a games console, but I thought I just wanted to include it just so that your Sims have something to do that will increase their fun, because Sims that are bored are really not fun to play as, because they're just tense all the time. So here's something to increase your fun, just a simple console. Maybe it's just one of those really old ones that are really cheap. Maybe like a Nintendo Entertainment System that's really old, but it's a classic, but it's pretty cheap to buy nowadays. So maybe it's one of those things. And I was going to put like some of these spooky day furniture down. I think I leave that table, but I was like having an idea to use it, but it didn't really work as well as I planned, because you know how when in like movies and stuff, especially when you enter an abandoned house, there's a bunch of furniture that's like covered in white cloth. I was trying to do that, but like I feel like the spooky day stuff really wasn't the thing to use for that, because the cloths at the bottom were really like zigzagged and like ripped and stuff. And I didn't think that was the kind of thing I was going for, because when I've seen that being done, like the cloths over furniture, the cloths just went all the way to the ground and kind of like piled up. But this one had like ripped clothing or ripped cloth, and it didn't really work as well as I thought it would. But anyway, we are working on the exteriors now, and as you can probably tell, there would be a lot of dead trees in here and there. And there's also a lot of like dead bushes and stuff, especially the bush from vampires that I've never used before. It was kind of really cool, and I liked the effect that it gave. And I also used some various dead log covering vines. I don't know what they're called. Like they're just basically vines that are on the ground, and they just cover it's like floor cover or ground cover that's basically died off. And there's also cactus as well, or cacti, and a couple of succulents as well, because obviously they don't need a lot of water to survive, so I'm sure that they'd be able to survive fairly easily on their own, provided that there's actually a little bit of water here and there, occasionally maybe. And after all, there was a pool in the past, so maybe that's kind of seeped into the ground over time and just made a little supply. Even though there's none left in the pool, maybe there's some left underground a little bit, and maybe the plants could use that occasionally. But anyway, as you can see now, the pool has been dried up, and it basically takes me forever to find like a nice wall tile and floor cover, like a floor tile for this. So once I finish recording this, I actually do go back and like add more things here and there, because this build took a lot longer than I expected. I'm surprised by how long this build took, since this is an abandoned home, for goodness sake. You'd think that it would be a lot easier to build than like a generic home, but this took just as long, if not longer, than my regular homes that I build, because obviously I have to place all these cracks and like mess and wall stains and stuff, and it was so crazy. It was a lot of fun, but it took a lot of time. So I actually had to go off camera and like make changes. So when the screenshots come around at the very end, you will get to see like the finished house. Essentially at the end of this speed build though, this will be like a finished house, but there are a few things that change, such as like I put down like a few more wall decorations, like the cracks and stains, and I do put a different wall tile in the pool, I believe. Like I do one that has like a small little tile at the very bottom. You'll see what I mean at the very end. And I also furnished the house a little bit more. Like I think I just add like a few more lights, maybe a few more tables or something like that. It's nothing crazy. So, but you'll get to see all of that at the very end. And some of the exterior plants as well get changed as well. I'm pretty sure like for the speed build, I add like the green plants in the pool, as you can see, but when I finish it, when I finished the build and I like edited it a little bit off camera and changed a few things, and you'll see this in the screenshots as well, as I said, like I think I changed all the plants to be like completely dead, so there'll be like dead bushes and stuff in the pool, like where the green stuff is right now, because I felt like this house would have to have been abandoned for quite a while. So I feel like even if there was a little bit of water left in the pool area, I think it would be all gone, so the plants would have died off. And also the little drains also get changed as well, because those actually emit bubbles, and I was hoping that it wouldn't if there was no water, but they still do. So I had to change that to a different kind of drain, and I'm pretty sure I used one of the ones from Get Together, I believe. Like it was just like a random, like it was almost like those floor heating systems, how there's like those vents in the ground. It looked like those kinds of things, but I put like two of those together to form like a kind of drain thing. And obviously, in case someone would fall into this pool, there is a way out. Like there's a stack of boxes they can climb up, and then they can grab onto the ladder, most likely, or hopefully. I just decided to do that because I feel like if a sim were to find their way into here, then they can get out, hopefully, using that thing. Obviously, they won't be able to do it in-game, but just for story purposes or just realism purposes, that's why those boxes are there. And I thought it looked pretty cool as well. But anyway, I think that's basically all there is to this build. I think I did a lot more rambling than I normally do, because in terms of like design choices, there's not really many like thought out design choices, apart from the fact that I'm using a lot of clutter and a lot of messy objects and ruined things. So yeah, sorry if it was too rambly, but anyway, if you like to find this build in the gallery, it will be up as Abandoned Modern Home. There will be screenshots at the very end of this, so if you're interested in those, definitely stay tuned. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!